Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. For more than 6 centuries, it stood as one of the most powerful empires in the world, stretching from the gates of Vienna to the deserts of Arabia, from the Balkans to the heart of Africa. It ruled over millions, commanded vast armies, and shaped the politics, faith, and culture of 3 continents. But by the dawn of the 20th century, the once mighty Ottoman Empire, the sick man of Europe as it was known, was dying. And its collapse would redraw the map of the modern world. This is the story of the fall of the Ottoman Empire. And today's history brief returns to They Never Said It. A quick word from our sponsors. This day in history. On January 31st, 1865, Congress passed the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, abolishing slavery. Though ratification would come later that year, the vote marked a decisive step toward ending one of the nation's greatest injustices. On January 31st, 1958, the United States launched Explorer 1, its first successful satellite. The mission marked America's entry into the space race and led to the discovery of the Van Allen radiation belts. Story of the day. The Ottoman story begins in 1299 in the rugged frontier lands of Anatolia, the crossroads of Europe and Asia. Its founder, Osman I, was a minor Turkish chieftain leading a small band of warriors on the edges of the crumbling Byzantine Empire. But his successors, Mehmed, Selim, and Solomon, would build his frontier principality into a global superpower. In 1453, Mehmed II, known as the Conqueror, captured Constantinople, bringing down the Byzantine Empire and transforming the city into Istanbul, the new capital of a Muslim empire that would span centuries. The Ottomans became heirs to both Roman imperial legacy and Islamic civilization. Their armies pushed deep into Europe, conquering Greece, the Balkans, and nearly Vienna itself. Their fleets dominated the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. Their culture, a fusion of Turkish, Arab, Persian, and Byzantine traditions, flourished. Under Solomon the Magnificent, in the 16th century, the empire reached its zenith, a realm of power, art, and law unmatched in its time. But even as Solomon's armies marched victorious, cracks had begun to form beneath the golden surface. Empires rarely fall in a single day. They usually decay slowly and often from within. For the Ottomans, decline was gradual but relentless. By the 17th and 18th centuries, the empire faced mounting challenges: administrative corruption, economic stagnation, and military stagnation in an age of European innovation. While Europe industrialized and modernized, the Ottomans clung to tradition. The Janissaries, once the elite soldiers of the sultans, became politically powerful and resistant to reform. Bureaucracy grew bloated. Provincial governors acted like kings in their own territories. Meanwhile, nationalist movements began to stir in the empire's vast and diverse population. Greeks, Serbs, Bulgarians, Armenians, Arabs, all dreaming of independence. To its enemies, the empire was now the sick man of Europe, and Europe was waiting for its final collapse. In the 19th century, Ottoman leaders recognized the danger. They launched sweeping modernization efforts known as the Tanzimat reforms: new schools, legal codes, railways, and an updated army. Sultans like Mahmud II and Abdul Masih I tried to centralize power and modernize administration. But these reforms came at a price. They angered conservatives at home and emboldened European powers eager to exploit the empire's weakness. The Crimean War, which happened in 1853 and lasted till 56, was one in which the Ottomans fought alongside Britain and France against Russia, and it showed both the empire's military vulnerability and its continuing geopolitical importance. But each victory left the empire more indebted to European banks and more dependent on foreign influence. By the 1870s, the finances were in ruins. Then came the reign of Sultan Abdulhamid II, a ruler, both reformer and autocrat, who embraced modernization but ruled with an iron hand, suspending the constitution and suppressing all dissent. His paranoia was not unfounded. Rebellion and foreign intervention haunted every corner of his realm. And then in 1908, everything changed. That summer, a movement of reformist military officers and intellectuals, calling themselves the Young Turks, revolted against Abdulhamid II. They restored the constitution, promising liberty, equality, and modernization under a new parliamentary system. But the empire they inherited was already collapsing under the weight of nationalism. In the Balkans, one province after another just broke free. The Balkan Wars between 1912 and 13 were catastrophic. The empire lost nearly all of its European territories, lands that it had ruled for centuries. What remained was a fragile state centered in Anatolia and the Middle East, bruised, humiliated, and vulnerable. In 1914, as the world plunged into war, the Ottomans made a fateful choice. When the First World War broke out, the Ottoman Empire sided with Germany and Austria-Hungary, the Central Powers, against Britain, France, and Russia. The decision was partly strategic. The Allies had long encroached on Ottoman lands, and German advisors had promised modernization and victory. But it would be the empire's undoing. The war opened fronts across vast, unforgiving landscapes. At Gallipoli in 1915, Ottoman troops under Mustafa Kemal, later Ataturk, famously repelled a massive Allied invasion, one of the empire's last great victories. But elsewhere, disaster struck. In the Arab Revolt, British agents like T.E. Lawrence helped stir rebellion among Arab tribes, promising independence in exchange for rising against the Ottoman rule. In Palestine, Mesopotamia, and Syria, Allied armies pushed deeper and deeper into Ottoman territory. Meanwhile, internal fractures tore the empire apart. The Ottoman government, fearful of rebellion, deported and massacred Armenians, Assyrians, and Greeks in what is now widely recognized as genocide, one of the darkest chapters in its history. By 1918, the Ottoman war machine was spent, its cities starved, its treasure empty, and its army shattered. And when the guns of World War I finally fell silent, the empire that had once ruled the crossroads of the world lay in ruins. The victors carved up the remains. Under the Treaty of Sevres in 1920, the Allied powers dismembered the Ottoman realm like vultures over a dead body. Britain and France took mandates over Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. Greece occupied parts of Western Anatolia. Italy and Armenia claimed others. The once great empire was reduced to a fraction of its former self. Its heartland, Anatolia, was to be divided, its capital occupied by foreign troops. The Sultan, Mehmed VI, remained a nominal ruler, but he was a mere puppet. It seemed that the Ottoman story was over. But out of the ashes, a new one was about to begin. In 1919, as Allied soldiers patrolled Istanbul, a war hero from Gallipoli, Mustafa Kemal, launched a resistance movement in Anatolia. He rejected the humiliation of the Sevres Treaty and called for national independence. His campaign, known as the Turkish War of Independence, united soldiers, peasants, and intellectuals to reclaim sovereignty. After years of fighting, they succeeded. In 1923, the Republic of Turkey was proclaimed, and Mustafa Kemal Ataturk became its first president. He abolished the Sultanate and soon after the Caliphate, ending 600 years of Ottoman rule. The Treaty of Sevres was replaced by the Treaty of Lausanne, which recognized Turkey's modern borders. The Ottoman Empire, the last great Islamic empire, heir to Byzantium and Rome, was gone. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire was more than the end of a state, however. It was really the end of a world order. Its fall reshaped the Middle East, giving birth to modern nations like Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, and Turkey. It left behind deep scars, disputed borders, ethnic tensions, and colonial legacies that continue to shape global politics today. The History Brief. The following comes from Paul F. Bowler Jr. and John George's They Never Said It, published in 1989. If I have seen farther, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Sir Isaac Newton. For centuries, Newton's admirers have quoted the shoulders of giants remark to show how modest the great English scientist really was. Newton was far from being arrogant, but the statement, which he made in a letter to Robert Hooke, a physicist who challenged Newton's priority in inventing a reflecting telescope, was not original with him. It actually appeared in Richard Burton's The Anatomy of Melancholy, 2nd edition, 1624, with which Newton was familiar. In a little different form, pygmies placed on the shoulders of giants see more than the giants themselves. And from Burton, the words have been traced to Bernard of Chartres in the early 12th century. It was even faintly foreshadowed 6 centuries earlier by the Roman grammarian Priscin. Sir Isaac Newton might have said it, but he was certainly not the first one to say it. Thank you again for tuning in and helping make this humble little show such a mighty success. If you are enjoying this show and would like to help me out with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a patron member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. If you want to email me, you can do so at peter@historyshortspodcast.com. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.